आज इस वीडियो में हम गुलामान अब्बास स्कूल में टर्म एग्जामिनेशन दिसंबर 2021 फिजिक्स थ्योरी पेपर 1 सॉल्व करेंगे। सो लेट्स कम टू आवर क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 ऑफ दिस मिड टर्म एग्जाम पेपर। A water waves in a ripple tank refract as it passes from deep water to shallow water. So a water wave that is traveling from deep to shallow region of the water, then which following property changes as the wave changes its direction of propagation. So as we know that when water waves traveling from deep to shallow or shallow to deep region, their frequency remains same while the speed and the wavelength changes. So the correct answer for this question is option D, speed and wavelength will change. Now let's see question number 2. A ball floating in a ripple tank begins to move vertically up and down as a wave passes through it. The ball does not move horizontally. Which statement is correct about this given situation? So first option is both energy and water are transferred in the direction of wave. So this is incorrect because only energy is transmitted through the medium without the transferring of the medium. Energy is not transferred in the wave direction, but water is. So this is incorrect because energy is the thing that is transferred in the form of wave. The option C is energy is transferred in the wave direction, but water is not. Neither energy nor water is transferred. So option D is incorrect. So our right answer for this question number 2 is option C. Now let's come to the question number 3. So here we have our question number 3. In an experiment using a ripple tank, plane wave front arrives at a plane surface that is held at a certain angle in the direction of wave. Which raw correctly describe the wave after they are reflected from the surface? So when these wave will strikes this plane surface, the wave will bounce back into the same medium, making the same angle. So neither its speed nor its wavelength or frequency will change. These two quantities, the characteristics of wave will remain same. The correct answer is option D. Then we have question number 4. Which of the following statement is correct? Infrared radiation cannot travel in a vacuum. This is incorrect because infrared is the electromagnetic wave. Infrared cannot travel in solid or in gas. So this is incorrect one because infrared can travel in solid, liquid, gas and vacuum. Then we have option D, infrared radiation can travel in vacuum and in gases as well. And infrared radiation can only travel in vacuum. So this option is incorrect. So our right answer for this question number 4 is option D. Now let's come to question number 5. A wave of frequency 13,000 Hz travel 1300 meters in 4 seconds. So what is the wavelength of the wave? We know that the wavelength is equal to V divided by F. The frequency in this question is 13,000 Hz and this is the distance and this is time. So velocity will become distance upon time, that is 1300 divided by 4 and the frequency is 13,000. So the correct answer for the wavelength will be 0.025 meter. So option A is the right answer in this question 5. Let's see question number 6. A ripple tank is used to show the wave behavior. The dipper vibrates up and down at a constant frequency. What happens to the frequency and the speed of the wave as the wave reaches the glass box? It means this is the deeper region while this is the shallow region. So when a wave traveling from deep to shallow region, the wavelength and speed decreases while frequency remains same. So option C is the right answer of this question. Now let's see question number 7. A wave has a frequency of 10 kilohertz. Which pair of values of its speed and wavelength is possible? So frequency is 10 kilo means 10,000 hertz. And in these options we have a speed v and a wavelength lambda. We know that frequency is equals to velocity over lambda. So in each of these following cases we will divide velocity with the wavelength. So 330 divided by 0.33. Let us calculate all four frequencies. So we have calculated the frequency in each of the following case by dividing velocity with the wavelength. So the correct answer for this question number 7 is option D, that 3 exponent 8 divided by 3 exponent 4. Our result will be 10,000 hertz. So the correct answer is option D. Which statement is correct for all electromagnetic waves? So which of the following statement is correct about the electromagnetic waves? So they cannot travel in vacuum. This is incorrect because these waves can travel through vacuum. They have the same frequency. This is incorrect because all electromagnetic waves have the same speed but different frequency. They are transverse. This is incorrect because the transverse nature is of a mechanical wave type. So the correct answer for this question is option D. Now let's come to question number 9 of this year. The diagram shows a ball floating in a tank of water. This is the direction of wave, and we know that water waves are of transverse nature. Water waves is transverse, and the ball floating on the surface of water will vibrate up and down perpendicular to the direction of wave. So when a wave will pass through this ball will vibrate perpendicular to the direction of wave without transferring or without traveling with the wave. So the correct answer for this question will be option D. Then we have question number 10 and 11, what is the frequency of the wave? So the definition of the frequency is the number of waves passing through a point in a unit time is called frequency. So the correct answer will be option A, that is the number of waves passing through a fixed point per second or a unit time. So option A is the right answer. A star explodes in the outer space, and this explosion causes different types of electromagnetic radiations to scattered into the space, producing light, heat and sound. So the only wave that do not reaches the earth is the sound wave, because this is the wave that is a longitudinal mechanical wave, and this wave require medium to travel. So option D is the right answer. We have question number 12. Intruder alarm, the theft alarm, is adjusted to give a quieter sound without affecting the pitch of the note. Quieter sound means that has the low amplitude or low loudness. Quiet sound are low sound, or the sound that has low loudness, and we know that loudness is directly proportional to the amplitude of the vibrating body. So quieter sound will have the low amplitude, and without affecting the pitch is related to frequency. This means that this intruder alarm will have a lower amplitude while the frequency remains same. Option B is the right answer. Now let's see question number 13, 14 and 15. Two sound X and Y are compared. X has the greater frequency, it means it is a high pitch, because pitch is directly proportional to frequency, and Y has a greater amplitude, and greater amplitude means it is a loud sound. How do the loudness and pitch of the sound wave Y compare to that of X? So as we can see, Y is louder as compared to X. So Y is louder and it will have low pitch, because X has the greater frequency, it has the more frequency, and it is more pitch. So this means that Y is louder but it is in low pitch, because the frequency of wave X is greater. So option B will be the right answer for this question. Now let's see question number 14. Which statement about the speed of sound is correct? Sound travels fastest in vacuum, in gases, in liquids, and in solid. So option D is the right answer, because the speed of sound in a solid is greater than the speed of sound in liquid as compared to the speed of sound in gases, while sound cannot travel through vacuum. Which frequency is the ultrasonic wave or ultrasonic range? So the sound that is greater than 20,000 hertz. The sound with the greater than 20,000 hertz are known as ultrasound. So and below 20 hertz are infrasound. So these three sounds are actually audible to human, while this option D is a sound that is greater than 20,000 hertz. This means that this sound is ultrasound. So option D is the right answer. Now let's see question number 16. A guitar string is made to vibrate. What makes the pitch of the note rises? So we know that the pitch is related to frequency. So if we need to increase the pitch, we need to increase the frequency of the vibration. So option D will be the right answer of this question. Let's come to question number 17. The sound produced by two musical instruments are directed towards the microphone connected to an oscilloscope. The wave produced are shown in the diagram. And we have these two diagrams. This diagram shows that these two waves are of same loudness or of same frequency, but the difference between them is the type of wave formed by these two instruments. The waveform shows that the sound produced have a different property. So which property of the wave is different in these two diagrams? So the correct answer is the quality of the wave. The characteristic of sound that enable us to distinguish between two such sound waves having the same loudness and same pitch, this characteristic is known as quality. Then we have question number 18. The diagram shows a loudspeaker that is producing a continuous sound wave of frequency 200 Hz in air. And which diagram best shows how the sound causes the molecule P to move? So we know that when the sound wave reaches the medium at point P, this point P will oscillate along the direction of wave, back and forth along the direction or parallel to the direction of wave, because sound is a longitudinal wave. So in that case, our option A, this diagram, is the correct depiction of particle P moving or vibrating in the medium when a sound wave passes through it. Now let's come to question number 19. Sound travels at different speed in air, water and steel. And for these materials, which raw is correct? We know that the fastest speed of sound is in solid while the slowest is in gases. So the correct answer will be option A, that the sound travels fastest in steel and slowest in air. Then we have question number 20, which of the following travels as a longitudinal wave? So the among these four options, the sound wave is the one that travels in the form of longitudinal wave. Option B is the right answer. Light wave is incident on a mirror. The light is reflected from the mirror. The angle of incidence I and the angle of reflection is R. Which diagram correctly shows the angle of incidence and angle of reflection? We know that these two angles are always measured with respect to the normal. So this angle I is not with respect to normal. This is the incorrect answer. This imaginary line is normal. This is incorrect. The correct depiction of incident and reflected angle measured with respect to normal is option C. Then we have question number 22, which length is the focal length of the lens as shown in the diagram. So in this diagram we have an object placed at that point, and this is a parallel incident ray, and we know that whenever the incident ray is parallel to the principal axis, it always passes through the principal focus. This means that this point is the focus, and this point, when incident ray strikes the optical center, it is passed straight through it. This shows that this point is the optical center, and we know that the distance between the optical center and the principal focus is known as the focal length. So option B correctly describes the focal length of this convex lens. So option B is our right answer. Now let's see question number 23. The ray diagram from a ray box passes through three different lenses at three different positions. So we have three lenses, 1, 2 and 3. We have to identify rather these lenses are converging or diverging. So this is the ray that strikes the lens at position 1, and this was the position of the incident rays when these rays strikes the first lens. As we can see, these two rays are converging. It means that the lens at this position is a converging lens. Similarly, if I can see the position at position 2, the incident rays are moving in this direction, and this lens has converges these incident rays. It means this lens is also converging. Similarly, as we can see, the position 3 where the lens has diverged, the rays are coming towards it. So the lens at position 3 is a diverging lens because the incident rays has moved apart while passing from the lens at position 3. So the position 1, 2 and 3 comprises of converging and diverging lens. So according to this, option B is the right answer. Then we have question 24. Light passes from A to block of glass as shown. So this is a block of glass and light ray is passing. This is our incident ray and this is our refracted ray. This will be the angle of incidence and this will be the angle of refraction with respect to normal. So the refractive index of glass will be equal to sine of I divided by sine of R. So I is W and the R is Y. Sine W over sine Y. Correct answer is option A. Then we have question number 25. An image is formed by a thin converging lens when it is used as a magnifying glass. We know that a convex lens can be used as a magnifying glass when an object is placed inside the focal length. So what is the correct description of the image? We know that whenever the object is placed inside the focal length, the convex lens form a virtual, erected and enlarged image. The characteristics of image are virtual, that is also known as upright, and the image is greater than the object. So the correct description of the image is in option C, that the image formed by this simple microscope or a magnifying glass is a virtual erected. Let's see question number 26. A ray of light in a transparent medium is incident on the surface as shown. Which of the following could not be the angle between the refracted ray and the normal in air? We know that a ray is traveling from medium into the air. It's mean this is our dense medium and this will be our rare medium. While traveling, the ray always moves away from the normal. So this is the angle of refraction, and this will be the angle of refraction. So which of the following could not be the angle of refraction? So as we can see in the diagram that this R should be greater than I in this particular case. So I is 30 and the remaining 3 are greater than 30 degree. So the correct answer could be 29, because angle R in this case cannot be less than 30 degrees. Now we have question number 27. An object is viewed through a converging lens. The diagram shows a path of 2 rays from the top of the object when I. As we can see, these two rays, these two refracted rays are diverging. This means that the image will be formed behind the object, and this is our convex lens. The image formed by the convex lens is the virtual image formed by the convex lens is always larger than the object. So correct answer will be option B, that the image will be larger and the virtual in nature. Option B is the right answer. Which law applies to a short-sighted person when it is viewing a distinct object? So the short-sighted person is the one who cannot see the far object because the image is formed in front of the retina due to enlarged eyeball and very thick lens. So image is formed in front of the retina, and for correction we need to place our diverging lens in front of the eye. So option D will be the right answer for question number 28. Let's see question number 29. This diagram shows a thin converging lens of focal length f, where must an object be placed to produce a real image in this position. So real image is formed, it's mean we have to place object somewhere at this position A, B, C and D. So as we can see, from this point to this point, this is the focal length. This means that this will be equal to F. Similarly, this point is F and this is 2F. As we can see, image is formed at 2F. So the object should also be placed at 2F to form an image at 2 times focal length. So option A is the right answer. The ray diagram shows 2 rays from a point on an object placed in front of our diverging lens. What are the properties of the image formed by this concave lens? We know that the diverging lens or a concave lens is always formed an image that is virtual, erected and upright, that is always smaller than the object. So the correct answer is option D, virtual and smaller than the object. Now let's see question number 31. A polythene rod is rubbed with a cloth and the cloth become positively charged. So for example, this is polythene and it is rubbed with a piece of cloth and the cloth become positive charge. This means that polythene has the negative charge. This statement is correct about the transfer of charge. So as we can see, polythene is negative. This means that the cloth as loses the negative charge and polythene has accepted. So the correct answer is option A. Negative charges are transferred from the cloth to the polythene that makes cloth positive and the polythene negative. So option A is the right answer. Then we have question number 32. The diagram shows an uncharged ball coated with a metallic paint. The ball is suspended from an insulating thread. It is placed near a positively charged rod, which diagram shows the distribution of charges on the ball. So as we can see, this is positively charged rod and this is our neutral object. Whenever a neutral body plays near a charged body, there is a displacement of charges in a neutral body due to electrostatic induction. So the correct description of this ball will be option D, that the positive charged rod will attract the negative charges in the ball that makes the opposite end of the ball as positive. So we have our right answer, that is option D. Now we have question number 33. A positively charged rod is brought near to an isolated uncharged conducting sphere. So if this is positively charged, this means that the region X will become negative and region Y will become positive. What are the charges on the sides X and Y of the sphere? So X will become negative and Y is positive. So option D is the right answer. Now let's come to our next question, that is question number 34. Which law correctly names an electrical conductor and electrical insulator? This is a simple question. The electric conductor is iron and aluminum, while rubber is the insulator. So option B is a straightforward right answer. A metallic sphere is connected to the earth. A positively charged rod approaches the sphere and stops before touching it. So a neutral sphere, we have a neutral metallic sphere and a positively charged rod is brought near this metallic sphere. So this positive charged rod will induce this sphere and attract the negative charge at the top of this sphere, while this end will become positive, and we have connected the ground connection at this point. This means that negative charge will enter the sphere to neutralize these positive charges. That makes this sphere, metallic sphere, as negatively charged. So movement of charge is negative charge from earth to the sphere, and the final charge on the sphere will be negative. So let's see which option is correct. These two are incorrect because these two options describe the movement of positive charge. So negative charge move from earth to the sphere and there will be a net negative charge on the sphere. So option A is the right answer. Two metallic spheres are suspended close to each other, which diagram shows the distribution on the sphere and the direction of forces on the sphere. So as we can see, these two are positive and there is a force of attraction. This means this is incorrect. Similarly, these two are negatively oppositely charged and they are attracting. But the problem in this diagram is such that the negative charge should be here and this end should be positively charged, so this diagram is also incorrect. Option D is incorrect because there is opposite charges on both spheres, but this diagram shows repulsion between them, so the correct answer is option B, in which there is repulsion between these two spheres and positive charges are on the opposite ends of the sphere. So option B is the right answer. Now let's see question number 37. A polythene rod is rubbed with a duster. So we have two different materials, polythene and a duster. The duster attracts a small piece of paper. Are the rod and the duster charged or uncharged? So polythene rod and duster, both were neutral, both were rubbed against each other. So we know that these two materials, these two insulators are charged when they were rubbed against each other. So the correct answer is option A. The rod is charged and duster is also charged. Question number 38. A negatively charged balloon is brought towards a wall which statement describes what happens. So the balloon is negatively charged and this balloon is brought near the wall. Negative charge on the balloon attract the negative charge in the wall. This is incorrect. Negative charge on the balloon have no effect on the charges in the wall. This is incorrect. Negative charge on the balloon repel the negative charge in the wall. This may be correct. And the negative charge on the balloon repel the positive charge in the wall. This is also incorrect. So the correct answer in this question is 38C. A Popix rod can be charged positively by rubbing it with a woolen cloth. So woolen cloth is rubbed against the Popix rod, that makes this rod as positive charge. How does the rod gains the charge? So rod is positive. This means that the woolen cloth will become negative, and there is a transfer of negative charge from the Popix rod to the woolen cloth. This means that negative charge is loosened by the Popix rod. So the rod loses the electrons. So option C is the right answer. Now we have the last question in this paper for question number 40. Which diagram correctly shows the electric field between two charged spheres? So these two are negative charges and the pattern is shown as in this case. So these two diagrams are incorrect because the pattern formed between them is sort of opposite charges. So these two are incorrect, while this diagram shows the incorrect direction of the electric field lines, because the electric field lines always moves towards the negative charge and away from the positive charge. So option B is the right answer of this question. So now we have our ATP paper of the midterm examination December 2021, in which we have 10 questions and each carry 1 mark. Let's see question number 1. Which of the following statement is correct? The periodic time of a particle moving with a simple harmonic motion is the time taken by the particle for one complete oscillation. This is the correct statement about the periodic time or the time period. The periodic time of a particle moving with a simple harmonic motion is directly proportional to the angular velocity. The velocity of the particle moving with a simple harmonic motion is 0 at the mean position. This is incorrect because it is not 0, rather it is maximum. The acceleration of the particle moving with a simple harmonic motion is maximum at mean position. So this is incorrect because at mean position it is 0 and at extreme position it is maximum. So the correct answer for this first question is option A. Time period of 85 centimeter long simple pendulum will be. So this is the length of the pendulum and the time period will be equals to 2 pi square root L over G. So the value of L is 85, that will be equals to 0.85 meters, and the gravitational acceleration will be equals to 10 meters per second square. So let's calculate the time period with this formula. So the correct answer, by substituting this L and G, we will get 1.83 seconds. So the correct answer is option D. Now let's see question number 3 and 4. What would be the effect on the time period of a simple pendulum if it is taken to the surface of moon? We know that the gravitational acceleration on earth is 10 meters per second square, while the gravitational acceleration on the surface of moon is 1.6 meters per second square, and the time period is inversely proportional to the square root of gravity. So if the G is decreased, the time period will increase, because the surface of moon, the gravity is less than as compared to surface of earth. So G will increase, so option B is the right answer. Time period of a simple pendulum is independent of which of the following quantity? So we know that the time period is independent of mass of the pendulum and the amplitude of the vibration. Option C is the right answer. Which diagram shows a ray of light could pass through a glass block in air? So this is the diagram, and let's see which diagram represents the correct passage of light through a glass slab. So first of all, let's see these two diagrams C and D, because when incident ray makes 90 degree, it should always enters without any deviation. So this is the incorrect diagram. Similarly, this incident ray is striking at some angle, so it should have bent towards the normal, but it is perpendicular. It has become perpendicular to the surface. This is the incorrect diagram. Now let's see two diagrams that are in option A and option B. If you can see the second diagram, in which this is the normal and this is incident ray. So in this diagram, the ray should bend towards the normal while moving from A to glass. Rather, it has bent away from the normal in diagram B. So the option A is the right answer, because option B is also incorrect. Now let's see question number 6. Which labeled distance is the focal length of the convex lens? So we know that the incident parallel ray passes through the lens. It meets at a point known as principal focus, and this point is known as optical center. So the correct definition of focal length is the distance between optical center and focal length. Option B is the right answer. What type of image is formed in the following diagram? As we can see, this is a convex lens, and the object is placed between F and optical center O. We know that whenever an object is placed inside the focal length of a convex lens, the image is formed behind the object, and the nature is virtual, erected, and larger than object. So option A is the correct answer. Now let's see question number 8. A convex lens has a concave lens as a focal length of 15 centimeter. At what distance should the object be placed? We have to find the object distance, P, and this is the focal length, and concave lens is diverging, so focal length will be negative. So image is formed 10 centimeter from the lens, so this is the image distance represented by Q. It always form a virtual image, so Q will be negative. So in short, the F is equal to -15, and q is equal to minus 10, and we have to find the object distance p, whose formula is f multiplied by q divided by q minus f. So after solving this whole expression, we will get 30 centimeters. So the correct answer is option C. Let's see question number 9 and 10. A coin seems to be 6 centimeter below the glass surface. So this 6 centimeter is the apparent depth of that object. Refractive index of the glass is 1.5. So this is our n, and we have to find the actual depth or real depth. So we know that the refractive index is equal to real depth divided by apparent depth. So real depth will be equals to n multiplied by apparent depth, that is equal to dr, where n is equal to 1.5 and the actual depth, apparent depth is equal to 6. So let's multiply 6 with 1.5. So the correct answer will be equal to 9 centimeters. So option C is the right answer. Then we have the last question in this ATP exam paper. The angle of deviation is the angle that is formed between the incident ray and the emergent ray. Angle of deviation is always measured with respect to incident ray and the emergent ray. The angle between these two is known as deviation. So the correct answer will be option D, angle between incident ray and the emergent ray.